Thank you everyone for joining. Dr. Anand Deshpande also don't need introduction, but let me do a brief introduction of him. He has a wonderful credentials here, but I'm going to just read some highlights of it. Anand Deshpande is a founder, chairman, and managing director of Persistent Systems company, which is located in US and in Pune. He holds a BTech from IIT Kharagpur and MS and PhD from Indiana University in Bloomington. He began his career as a staff engineer in HP in Palo Alto, California in 1990. Till 1990, he worked there, and then he founded the Persistent System, which is a billion-dollar software company now and trades publicly in India and US. He's also a founding trustee of Persistent Foundation, which is responsible for Persistent Systems corporate CSR. With his family members, Anand has established the DSARA Foundation. It's a non-profit entity which helps to support the nano entrepreneurs. Till today, close to 300,000 nano entrepreneurs supported so far with Anand's initiative here. In the past, he served on NASSCOM's Executive Council. He was founding president of Association of Computer Machinery, ACM India. That's where I met Anand way back in 2000, 2009, when I was part of ACM Bangalore and part of the organizing community where the ACM India's first conference was conducted. It's 2009, I'm telling, like more than 15 years now. He also was part of the Software Exporters Association of Pune, Pune chapter of Computer Society of India, founding member of Indian Software Products Industry Roundtable, governing board of College of Engineering, and also Gokhale Institute of Politics. He is married to Sonali, and they have a daughter, a son, and daughter-in-law. Thank you so much, Anand, for joining the Leaders and Coaches of Asia conference. You have impressive background, but I don't want to talk more about your background. I just let you speak because a lot of people are interested to hear your wisdom here. Over to you,
Yes.
Anand. Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Naveen, for inviting me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be part of this group. So
Thank
let
you.
me first start by a disclaimer that I'm not a coach really. And I have never really, meaning I have read about what coaches do, and I think I am completely opposite of that, meaning I don't let you think I just give you advice. So it's a little different in that sense. But that said, since you have invited me, I thought I was thinking a lot about what I should say. And I'm going to skip this. These are just the bio slides. But I decided to put up 4 ideas here in terms of things that I think are where transitions are happening in the world because of various situations and different kinds of things. And I'm going to give you these 4 ideas, a little bit, a few slides on each one of them, and spend about 5 minutes about each of these ideas, because I think it's at this transition, it's when we need coaching the best. And if coaches have the context of what may be happening in people's lives, then they are more likely to be successful in helping them. That's how I've thought of this topic today. So I'm going to share 4 ideas. One is business growth, and I will go through each one of them one by one. Just as a context, which is already mentioned, I've been part of Persistent as a founder for the last 35 years. The company did about $1.4 billion. We have 25,000 employees. And we are focused on digital transformation and basically enterprise modernization, as we call it. All of this stuff will be available to you as slides, so I'll not spend too much time on the Persistent part. Let me just first come to the first thing. So what I have found in general, and this is my observation with different companies, is that company growth is not a straight line, but is actually a sequence of S curves. So you do some things, you see growth, and then you flatten out. And then it is important to find this next orbit. So you have to move from one S curve to the next S curve. And the thing is, what works in one orbit actually doesn't work in the next one. You have to do different things in the next orbit, whether it's the business model, whether it has to do with people, it has to do with the kind of processes you follow and the culture and all of those kinds of things. And typically these transitions are essential, because if you don't make that transition, then you will stay flat and eventually die. So it is essential to find that next orbit, because if you don't, then you will not survive. But while you find that next orbit, it is incredibly hard to make this transition. It is painful, torturous, and it really hurts the people who are in the company at some point or the other. Because what I have also observed is that while companies can scale, people have the hardest time scaling from one orbit to the next orbit. And that's sort of where I thought I should leave that thought with you all as you go through this. And at Persistent right now, having been part of the business now for almost 35 years, we see ourselves in the sixth orbit right now. So we have seen these orbit shifts, and at every orbit shift, what worked in one orbit actually doesn't work in the next one. And it is very difficult to make this kind of a transition. And in fact, I find that the transition from the first orbit to the second orbit is especially hard because the founders have to make that reorientation of their mind, and that is typically hard for founders as well. So, and in that context, I run a program called Second Orbit, where I work with companies in the 20-25 crore range to see how to help them get to 10x growth in some form or the other. And we have about 100 companies in 5 cohorts that I'm working with at this moment in that category. And I find
Sorry
that
to interrupt you, but your slides are not moving.
thanks for reminding me. Let me find some other way to do it.
Maybe
Do
you
you
could go into
what do you see
presentation
on this
mode
side?
and
Do you
click
see it?
next.
Is it moving?
No, we don't. There's maybe
Okay,
you could. Yes, we could. If you could share again,
yeah,
it would help. Thank you.
really sorry about that. Just give me a moment. Let me know if you start to see the slides at least.
Yes, we're seeing the slides, and now you could go into the presentation mode. Yeah, that's perfect.
Is it moving?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay, so I have actually moved to slide 8 here and then to 9, where I'm saying that growth in businesses is a sequence of S curves. So you do some things and then you see growth and then you flatten out. And you have to reorient and refine yourselves to the next orbit, because that is important. And if you don't do that, then you will not be able to grow the business. And at Persistent right now, we see ourselves in the sixth orbit, and every transition actually has been very hard, difficult. It's been deliberate, and we can see the difference in every orbit. But it was important to make these changes, even though it was painful at that point. So this is the first concept I want to leave. Naveen, I'm going to let you watch the Q&A box. If there are any questions that you want to interrupt me, please do. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving. Okay.
Will you be taking the questions during the, sorry.
Yeah, sure. I can take questions during the thing, because then if people are bothered, then, it's easier to sort them out.
Okay, sure. I will.
Second comment that I'm going to make is regarding individuals. So what happens is that when we as individuals, did I move the slide? Am I on slide number 12, 13?
You're
Okay.
in 11.
Does this show life as intertwined priority shift?
13 now, yes. 13.
Okay. Is it moving?
It is.
It is.
Okay. So one important concept that I want to share is that, when people are in a career, typically 40 or 50 years, life is not consistent. So when we look at work, we tend to look at me and my contributions in the work context. But reality is that when I'm looking at myself holistically, I need to think about what I do for myself, what I do at work, what I do for family, and what I do for the community. And it's the combination of all of these four things that really constitute what I do. And we had this observation within the company, and actually we realized that for various reasons, work is starting to go into family time and community time. So we said, hey, this is unfortunately going to happen because of the way we work and especially with the global teams, then we should also allow families to be more part of the company when it's possible. So trying to think about when I'm looking at, you know, the company and the people in the company, we should look at them as part of all of these four things and people balancing their priorities along the way rather than looking at it in one particular way and or one particular dimension of it. The second related thing that we realized is that when I sort of look at individuals and their careers over a 40-year period, I find that during these 40 years, people have very different priorities or should have different priorities because just like the orbits that I shared in the context of the company, individuals also have different things that they must prioritize at different stages of their career. So if you are in your, so this is what I tell people and why, let me share a story about why this came into being. So in the last 15 years or so, I've been trying to recruit senior leadership in the company, and I meet a lot of people in their mid 40s. And what I find typically is that someone, when they come in, they usually say that I have 15, 20, 25 years of experience, and it's from one company, another company, third company. But when you ask them, okay, so what has that experience given you? What are you because of that experience? Typically, people are not very comfortable answering that question. They are all very willing to say that I've worked in this company and that, and I have done whatever the company has asked me to do. But they are not able to define who they are. So this sort of got me thinking a lot and saying, can we help individuals plan their career in a way so that they don't have to be stuck at that point where they can't say what they have done? So what I can try to advise people is that in their first 10 years of your life, of your career, you should focus on learning and networking. And the reason you want to do this early on is because unless you do it early on, you will not learn how to do it. And this is something you're going to know how to, you have to learn how to do it all the time. So the earlier you figure out how to learn and learn to learn and learn to network, the better off you are. So most people tend to do fine there. Now, when you look at the second 10 years between the age of 30 to 40, this is sort of where people kind of miss the plot, which I find is very common. And it's they kind of follow the chart that the companies give in terms of your career hierarchies. But at that point, you find that when you reach your mid 40s or whatever, early 40s, you have no clarity of what you have done. So, what I recommend to people is that by the end of your second 10 years, you should establish an identity for yourself. And that identity can't be your job title or your job. It has to be about what you represent, what is your work, and all of that. And at that point, you should be able to establish your own personal brand and personal identity. And the world should say that that is your personal brand, meaning it should not be just by you saying it, but by the rest of the community accepting the fact that you are in that particular situation. Then, what I have also observed is that when you look at very senior leadership roles like CEO and CFO and others, typically you are trying to hire someone at that role in their early 50s. So if you are in your early 40s and you are a personal brand in a certain area, like you are a hardcore techie, you want to be the CEO of the company, how do you make that transition from that over the next 10 years? So what I tell people is that between the age of 40 and 50, you have three career stops typically, and you must work your way to the end goal rather than just pursuing what comes up next. And then finally, when you get to 50, you need to see how to build teams and set yourselves up for retirement. And it's also important, now that I'm in that zone, that you should set yourselves up for retirement even before you retire, because if you don't do that early enough, then when you retire, nobody will really invite you to do anything per se. So that's the other concept that I wanted to share with you. So this is the second idea, that priorities change as employees navigate their 40-year career. And every time they have to make these transitions, employees and people can get quite lost. Also, priorities that happen because of home, family, and others can also disrupt employees' career plans. So at that point, coaches can play a major role in helping people make their careers more effective. Okay, now let me go to the third item, and I'm going to assume that there are no specific questions at the moment. AI already has reached a point where it writes better code than humans. So I do expect, especially in the software industry and in many other industries, teams to be comprising of some humans, but also some agents and bots. Also, if computers or AI is going to write better code than humans and everyone is going to use AI to write code, what would the software engineers do? So this is a big question that companies like us have been worrying about. But what I find is that, there will be possibly shortage of jobs or activities to do, but there is no shortage of work. So one of the important things that we as humans need to do is to figure out how to ask the right questions and to define the problem in a correct way. How do we bridge domains across different domains and different disciplines? How do we, focus on creativity, innovativeness, and all of this? But while all of this is going on, I'm pretty sure this will be a very stressful time for people who are going through this transition. And as I said, every transition requires very different kinds of readiness and skills that you need to put together. So this is something to think about in terms of what you might want to do. As I said, in the world that I look ahead, there will be projects which will have some humans, but also some agents and robots. The technology that we are in at the moment is evolving exponentially. So things are changing so fast that it is very hard to keep pace, and that creates stress and pressure within the company. And also, AI implementations are going to require serious change management because technology will evolve halfway through the project. Lots of people will be affected in different ways. So, here again, I think coaches can sort of think a little bit about what happens in the world with AI starting to be a dominant player. And this could be a transition that could help coaches to think about how to support their clients in the context of that. I just want to share one story about chess and how chess and AI have kind of how chess players have really accepted the fact that AI is going to get better than them. So here's the story as such. You will find that in 1997, IBM's Deep Blue defeated Kasparov. For the first time, a computer, defeated human in a classical grandmaster level chess game. And over the years, there are these chess engines that do so much better that today 100% of the time a chess engine will defeat a human. To the extent that Stockfish's ELO rating is supposedly 3800, when the highest ELO rating for Magnus has been 2882. Now, I've been part of the chess community, having supported them in different forms. So in 2007-8, we distributed computers to some of the grandmasters and other young chess players in Maharashtra. And there was a lot of discussion about what is going to remain in chess, because if humans are going to get defeated by the computer every time and everybody is going to use computers to do their preparation, the games would be completely boring and everyone would play the same kind of game and there would be nothing left to play. But as you all know, in the last few years, chess has completely changed. Every grandmaster spends enough time learning and playing with computers to improve their quality of the game. And the kinds of moves they make right now are very different from the pre-chess moves. So pre-AI moves, let's say. So a lot of these kinds of things have happened where chess players have now accepted the fact that AI is very much part of their lives. They are not competing against AI, but they have learned to live with AI. I think a similar thing we may have to think about in terms of programming. We cannot compete with AI, can we write better code? But we can definitely leverage AI from using the computers and the AI to improve our code so that we can do more meaningful and productive things together. So we can't fight AI, but let's learn to embrace AI. So that's the thing I wanted to mention. And I just say here that as AI starts to get very vertical, I think it's important for humans to go horizontal. I'm going to tell you the last item that I have, unless there is a question you want to interrupt me with. And this is the kind of very important. And I think this is something that we thought of a few years back, about 15, 20 years back at Persistent, when we redefined what life at Persistent means. And the whole concept was that there was a lot of discussion prior to that where, just like college, you have the next job, how many years will you get promoted, what happens next, and all that. So companies are forced through HRs to define career ladders and all of those kind of things. And then, as I mentioned to you, I found that when you get to people in the mid 40s, they have followed the career ladders, but they are not able to say what they do and what their job is. So we decided that let's address this problem from scratch or from first principles, and we sort of agreed and believed that every employee is responsible for their own life and career, and the company can't be responsible for their life and career. This doesn't mean that we don't take responsibility of enhancing the skills of our employees. In fact, far from it. What we have, having accepted the fact that an employee in the company is responsible for their own life and career, we have actually created programs that ensure that we must provide every individual high quality life that will help them further their career. Because if we did that, only then would they want to stay with the company. So we have changed our responsibility from saying, I'm going to spoon feed you with career ladders, to saying, you are responsible for your own life and career. You will make your own decisions. But as you make your decisions, we understand that you are going to take decisions and calls that are appropriate for you. So we must do what it takes to ensure that you stay with us, because you are getting everything you need for enhancing your career and your life by staying at Persistent. And the career ladder things that I mentioned about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, that all came around that same time, because then we said, okay, if people need to have the ability to create their own personal brand, then we must allow them to write about what they do on their personal blogs or on conferences and various other places, because that's the only way they can build their own personal brand. And the last thing I want to mention here is that this is another corollary of what we tell employees, and that is that employees can make choices, yes, and every choice has consequences. But if you make choices and take responsibility for choices, you are also responsible for the consequences of those. So don't shirk away from the consequences. So that's really what we have done. So I want to just quickly summarize and say the four things that I shared with you. One is that business growth is a sequence of S curves. These transitions are really hard, and they are especially hard for individuals who are going through this transition. So this is something that I think coaches can think about, as to saying, what is the context in which that individual is in the context of the company. And if the company is going through this rapid changes, then the kind of skills that they may have been good at may not be considered appropriate for the next orbit. The second point I mentioned was that priorities for employees change during their 40 years as they navigate their careers. They must prioritize on different things in the next first 10, second 10, third 10, fourth 10. So, we must be aware and cognizant of their situation and provide the right kind of environment for employees so that they can make that kind of transition happen. And the third thing, of course, AI is going to really disrupt lives in many different ways. But if we are able to learn and adopt and work with AI and AI agents, then we would be extremely productive, and that could help in trying to define what we do in the next few years. And this, again, may be an interesting thing, and maybe something to think about is that would coaches also be AI-fied in some sense, and would people use an AI coach rather than a human coach? And what would the consequences of that look like? But I'll leave that to you for the next sessions that you might have. And finally, I say that everyone must be responsible for their own life and careers. So yeah, everyone has choices to make, and the choices you make have consequences. So this is the reality of where it is. As I said, I'm not a coach. I'm not trained as a coach. But having run a business and run companies for the last 35 years, I find coaches can play a very important role for individuals, leadership, and the company employees. And as this happens, I just wanted to leave you with the thought that many of these kinds of contextual things, if you are aware of and factor in when you do the coaching, I'm sure you will get brilliant results. I'll stop here. I know I am short of time, so I'll stop here, take any questions that you might have as appropriate. And of
Yeah,
course, if you have further, please email to me at anand@persistent.com. I know it's
yeah,
about 7.
yeah, definitely. Actually, Anand, we have a couple of questions coming in, but I think one question I will read out. We have one more minute. How could we equate planning for one's career growth to the planning for company's career growth, company's growth, basically?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. I think it's I think the previous speaker, actually, Peter, he really did a brilliant job of sharing the whole concept of being purpose driven for the company, saying that it's the purpose that brings the team, right? So clearly, what needs to happen in this world is that companies need to go through their own journey, and people who are aligned with the journey of the company and the stage of that company at that point, if they are willing to sort of, they understand and appreciate what the company is going through and mold themselves to align with that, then they will see progress in the context of the company. However, if it is such that you are in a position in your life where you don't necessarily want to be part of that journey, but at least you know that company is going in this direction, that's not the direction I want to go. I want to do something different. In that case, you should feel empowered enough to say, okay, I don't need to stay here and move on. And the company needs to also have that maturity to allow me to leave rather than trying to make life miserable for everyone. But it is very important to understand that at every phase of the company's growth, the leadership of the company has to be appropriate to the growth of the company or the stage of the company that you are in. If the company is chasing growth, but the leadership of the company believes that they should not be chasing growth, then it's not going to work.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Anand sir, for sharing your wisdom. I know we are over the time, but thank you once again coming to the Leaders and Coaches of Asia. And we have some more questions coming in. We will email you and then post the answers on the website.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Naveen, for inviting me, and wish you all the very best for the next 2 days as well.
Yeah, we are excited, and thank you for being our guest. Have a nice day, Anand sir. Thanks everyone for joining today's keynote. I know you guys have posted some questions. We also received personally some questions. We will get the answers from Anand sir and we'll post it on the website. And this recording will also be available on the YouTube. Thank you everyone. And we'll see you next week, Tuesday at 5 p.m. India time for our main conference kickoff. Thanks everyone. Have a great day. Bye.